Hello everyone, today is Sunday the 3rd of June 2018. Once there was a man who had a dream that was very, very impactful. In this dream, he was standing in a field, and in the distance he could see these two really big halls where feasts were taking place inside. And as he approached, what he noticed was that one of the halls was very boisterous. He could hear lots of people inside, but the other one was silent. So he first entered that one where people were quiet. What he saw were hundreds and hundreds of people sitting on benches across from each other at these great big tables. And on the tables in front of each person were great big bowls filled with a delicious smelling stew. But to the man's surprise, the people that were sitting at these tables, they looked like they were starving. Their faces were gaunt. Their skin was sallow and sickly looking. Well, he kept watching these people, and it soon became clear what the problem was. Next to each person was a spoon. The problem was these spoons were long. They were longer than the people's arms, the length of the spoon. And so as they used their spoons, they could get food out of the bowls, but they couldn't aim it back and feed themselves with it. The spoons were just too long. And so the people were going hungry. Well, this scene was so miserable that the man left that first hall, and he walked across the grass and entered the second hall. Now, the circumstances were identical. Hundreds of people, all sitting across from each other at these huge tables, and in front of each person a bowl of this delicious-smelling stew. And they also had these unusually long-handled spoons, but these people were different. These people were talking, they were laughing, they looked healthy, they were definitely well-fed. And at first he didn't understand. But then it became apparent what made this hall different from the first one. Rather than focusing on trying to feed themselves with these long spoons, what the people were doing was focusing on feeding the person across from them at the table, and back and forth like that. And that's how they were getting fed. Well, the man woke up the next morning, and it occurred to him that what he had seen in this vision was the difference between heaven and hell. Now, you may have heard this allegory, this story about the long spoons before. It's told in many cultures. There's many variations of it. But the principle is the same. When we are focusing primarily on our own selves, and when we spend most of our time seeking self-gratification, we tend not to see the needs of the people around us. And because we're all interconnected as members of the same human race, when we neglect the needy around us, and we're all needy, when we neglect other people's needs, what we do is we bring neglect upon ourselves, because what we do to someone else always comes back on us in some way. The reason this has been on my mind, I've got around 165,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, many of whom leave comments on my videos, and I love it. I love interacting, but I get to see how people interact with one another. Most everybody is respectful. Most people are decent to each other, but we all know that the internet is full of trolls. It's famous for it. These people who are constantly criticizing, insulting, cursing at other people in comment sections over minor issues. Usually from behind anonymous usernames, because most trolls are cowards. Very rarely are these people contributing anything positive, not just in the comment sections, but in their own personal lives. But they very much enjoy going after people who are trying to make a difference. They go in and they cut people down, call them names, mistreat them. They go after people who are trying to make a difference in the world in some way. People like this, these trolls, you're going to encounter them everywhere. You'll see them certainly on YouTube, but on Facebook, on Twitter, no matter where you go, you're going to see it. It's very much like the example of the crabs in the bucket, right? If you watch videos of people catching crabs, they usually don't, they throw them in a bucket, but they usually don't put a lid on top of it. They don't have to. They don't have to worry about the crabs escaping. Why? Because as one crab begins to crawl out, ascend above the other crabs toward the rim of the bucket, it inevitably gets pulled back down by the other crabs that are down there in the bottom of the bucket. And down in that bottom, if you watch these videos, the crabs are always fighting, clawing at each other. It's savage. So we see this same kind of phenomenon among humans. There are some people who act like crabs. They are petty, they are jealous of the successes or the attempts at success of other people. They attack those of us who are trying to make a difference. They're very intolerant of other people's faults. They're intolerant if someone is limited in their understanding of some issue. They're intolerant if someone makes a mistake. And so they seek to bring down others down to the bottom of the bucket where they are living, where the fighting is going on. Because as the saying goes, misery loves company, right? And I know you all are experienced with this. You've all seen it. And it can be hard when you're attacked in social media to resist the urge to strike back, to resist the urge to return insult for insult. I have trouble with that. I've got all these witty remarks I would love to fling, and every once in a while I slip up and I do it when someone is especially obnoxious, but it's a struggle. So I'm right there with you. Don't think I'm speaking down to those of you who tend to be argumentative. It's hard to resist the urge when someone attacks you. But the truth is, when we choose to get down into the bottom of the bucket with internet trolls or with people who are pessimists, who say there's nothing we can do to fix some problem, whatever it is, don't even try, it's not even worth it. People who suck the positive energy out of us. If we get down with them, down in the bottom of the bucket, we're doing two things. First, we are feeding the trolls the very negativity that they are trying to elicit from us. Second thing that we're doing is we're robbing ourselves of our own peace, of our own serenity. Having a good, positive environment is something that we do have control over, though. So we should use our agency to turn the other cheek, to not let unkind words and actions by others determine how we're going to act, how we're going to speak or behave. Don't let someone else manipulate you into getting down into the mud with them. I lived in Southeast Asia for a few years and lived in Thailand, where the country is 98% Buddhist. So I had the opportunity to learn a lot of Buddhist teachings while I was there. Let me read. In fact, one book that I picked up is just called The Teaching of Buddha. Let me read just a little bit from this. You may find it interesting. The devil's dominion is full of greed, darkness, struggling, fighting, swords, and bloodshed, and is replete with jealousy, prejudice, hatred, cheating, flattering, fawning, secrecy, and abuse. Now suppose that the light of wisdom shines upon that dominion, and the rain of compassion falls upon it, and faith begins to take root, and the blossoms of joy begin to spread their fragrance. Then that devil's domain will turn into pure land. And just like a soft breeze and a few blossoms on a branch that tell the coming of spring, so when a person attains this enlightenment, the grass, trees, mountains, rivers, and all other things begin to throb with new life. If a person's mind becomes pure, his surroundings will also become pure. I actually picked this book up. It was free. I got it while traveling up the northern coast of California, doing some sightseeing, and I just had it for free in the lobby, so I grabbed a copy. The idea being taught here is that what makes a place hell or heaven depends largely on the mindset of the person who is in that place. Those who have purity in themselves create a kind of energy that purifies the environment around them. So in a way, we create our own heaven on earth by how we choose to think, how we choose to live. Compassion, kindness, love, these are things that can cause green leaves to sprout from a dead tree limb. So we can transform our own spaces into positive ones if we choose to. And I think that a lot of people don't understand just how powerful choice is, how powerful we can create a life that we want if we envision that and seek for it and create it in our minds and then manifest it into the world around us. But likewise, by that very same power, if we choose thoughts or words or actions that are greedy, that are jealous, that are hateful, then we can be in the midst of a lush, green, beautiful place and turn it into a dark dominion that's only fit for the devil and his slaves. Don't you feel bad when you're around people that are negative? Don't you feel bad when you read ugliness in comment sections? And really, if we're honest with ourselves, when we respond to ugly people with our own ugly comments, we don't feel good inside. It doesn't make us feel better. We may feel some satisfaction for a little while, but there's nothing fulfilling about that. I believe all of this in a very literal sense. I believe that the devil is real. I believe that there are dark entities called demons. I believe that they exist in it's a parallel dimension that we can't see with our natural eyes, but that dimension is like a transparency that is placed over this third dimension that we can easily perceive with our natural faculties. So these dark entities are literally right there with us. We can't see them, but they're there. And they are like vampires. But instead of sucking the blood out of us, what they do is they eat our energy. They don't want good energy. They don't want something that's positive or uplifting. That is not what they can live off of. They feed off of dark energies. Energies that are produced from things like anger, rage, bitterness, jealousy, lust, greed, hate, all of these things. The abuse of children especially is something that they feed off of. The abuse of our spouses, the abuse of other people. They feed off of that like parasites. They latch onto the host and they feed. But in the process, just like what parasites do in nature, what they do to the host is they end up destroying the host in the process. So that's why these entities are continually using their hosts, manipulating them into breeding more people who are negative. So they will take advantage of somebody and get that person to attack other people and try and produce more. So when we allow ourselves to be manipulated being manipulated by negative people into becoming negative or angry ourselves, into being bad like that, really what's happening is we are falling prey to the schemes of these devils that we can't see. And if you want to look at it from just more of a secular standpoint, remember that in stories of Dracula or any vampire stories, when one victim is consumed by a vampire, that victim, himself or herself, in turn becomes a vampire and goes out to feed on yet other people. And so this cycle perpetuates itself. Now, there are different ways that we can break this cycle. We can fill our lives with positivity. We can choose to associate with positive people. You don't have to, well, it's difficult in some circumstances. Sometimes you have to associate with negative people, but we can at least make choices. And that's why I get criticized sometimes for deleting comments in my comment section. They say, oh, you're infringing on free speech. Yeah, I am. But see, it's not free speech. This is my comment section on my video. I produced the video. I'm the one who put the labor in to produce this. The comment section I could turn off, but I leave it on. It's a privilege for me to communicate with other people. So if I see someone being vicious or unkind or mean-spirited, racist, just whatever it is, I have no qualms whatsoever over deleting those comments. I only do it for the first handful of hours that the video is up because it's just I can't monitor all these. But I want to have an environment that I feel good in. And if people are fighting and being nasty or insulting, I don't care if you think that's free speech or not. I wouldn't let you come into my house and talk to me that way. I would not presume to go into your home and in front of your wives and children call you names and tell you that you're stupid or whatever. That's just poor behavior. And if you wouldn't tolerate it yourself in your own home, don't think I'm going to put up with it in the comment sections. We can break the cycle. I don't want negative people around me, not in real life and not in this virtual world. We can also choose what forms of entertainment that we consume, because there's a lot of it out there that produces negative emotions in us. And I'm sure some of you watch MMA fights on TV. Now, some people can watch it and just see it as entertainment, come away. But a lot of people, and I know this for a fact, I know a lot of people will watch MMA blood sport and come away fired up, ready to just fantasizing of having their own bloody fist fights. That's the impact. Or maybe if that doesn't bother you, it could be music, certain kinds of music. Could be certain kinds of video games, things that glorify negative stuff. Things that are not healthy for your spirit, for your soul. Things that don't feed you in a nutritious way. Kind of like consuming junk food for your spirit compared to eating something nourishing. From such things we can turn away. Choose that which is uplifting. Choose whatever is wholesome. And what happens in doing this is you endow yourself with a kind of strength to resist evil and to repel negative energies from you. You will inoculate yourself from some of the pessimism that infects the world around us like a virus. We have to live in the world, but we don't have to be of the world. We don't have to be like the negative world that's out there. We can create good, positive environments, and when we do it in large numbers, it's a blessing to not just ourselves, but our families, and even to our communities. And if we do it on a big enough scale, it has that impact on an entire nation. So if a parasitic demon tries to latch onto you, if you are filling yourself with things that are wholesome, that demon won't be able to maintain its grip on you because you will be full of light, and light is something that repels creatures of darkness, both those that are on the other side of this veil and those that are on this side of it with us. And there's a Bible story that kind of expounds on this principle. If you were to go back, and I think it's in the 13th chapter of John. This is the night before Jesus was crucified. He was in the upper room celebrating the feast of the Passover with his disciples. And he taught them to serve one another. And he taught them not just with his words. Jesus was one who frequently taught by example. So what he did was he got down and he took a basin of water and removed the sandals from the feet of these disciples, and he washed their dusty feet, even though he was someone who probably, well, it was a humbling thing to do such a thing. But he taught that by example, that even the greatest among people should consider themselves a servant to his fellow man. Now, during that dinner, during that Passover meal, knowing that one of these 12 men sitting with him was going to betray him to the Jews, Jesus told that man, Judas, to go ahead, leave now, withdraw from the group, go and carry out that evil deed that you already have planned in your heart. But something happened when Judas left. The mood changed. You can read this chapter and see that the tone changes. There's a levity that comes into the room. And it's at that point that Jesus teaches the remaining apostles an important lesson. He tells them to show love for each other, both in word and in deed, in the way that God loves each one of them. He told them that the act of truly loving each other would be so profound that in itself would identify them to the rest of the world as being disciples of Jesus Christ, because true love for your fellow man is kind of rare. And I think that over the last 2,000 years, it's become even more rare for someone to truly be selfless and loving toward other people, even people that are not so nice. So this act of loving others is what would cause them to stand out from the rest of the world. And when we look out in the world today, and you can see this in comment sections on videos, unfortunately, there are many Christians who are self-professed Christians who don't understand that principle. Love is so far from their hearts. They'll say, I love you with their lips, while in the process of punching you in the nose with sanctimony and hypocrisy. I love you so much, I'm going to tell you what an idiot you are and how stupid you are. That is so off-putting. It's a real shame, because it gives true disciples of Christ a bad reputation by association. Those who are not Christians look at the rest of us and say, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. So don't treat each other unkindly. Treat one another with kindness. And I promise you that if you do this, if you make a conscious, concerted effort to treat other people throughout your day with kindness, with compassion, and you do it consistently, even in social media, you will see an incredible change take place in your life. And I don't mean just be loving in a passive way. I mean actively look for opportunities to demonstrate love and service to other people. If you do this, you will become a more optimistic person. You will be less affected by the cruelty of others when it does happen. You will be happier as a person, and that happiness will start to emulate from you into other people. They will notice a change in you. You will create that environment of peace that the Buddhists are talking about. I believe that these principles are true. I have lived by them, and I have learned for myself that they're true. And because I know that I am no better than anyone else, I have my faults that I could go on for a year talking about. So I don't pretend that I am any holier or any better than any of you. I don't feel that way. But because I lived these principles, I put them into practice, I know from experience that they work, and I have seen them work in the lives of everybody who have tested it out. Sincerely. So anyway, I know this video is a little bit different from others that I generally make, but I try to use my Sundays as a day off from the stresses of this ugly, chaotic world out there. There is so much junk out there. And you know, I don't like to talk doom and gloom all the time, but I do like to give an honest assessment of where we are geopolitically and to warn of dangers and to try to alert people of things so that we can talk about it, shine light on the problems, and hopefully in a collective fashion come up with some solutions, influence others. But at the same time, that's some heavy stuff. There's some dark things that we cover on this channel. So I need Sunday to take a breather from it, to refresh, to renew, to indulge in things that are purely positive. And I confess, I'm one of those people who will sit on YouTube and watch video clips of funny animals. I love animals. I always have. I love nature. Being in nature or being with a pet, with an animal, or even watching it in videos, it re-energizes my heart to observe beauty in our world. And speaking of, when I was thinking about this video, about making this video, it made me remember something that I used to do that I haven't done in a long time. And that is, I used to maintain a page on Facebook, a Facebook group dedicated to nature and animals. If any of you want to check it out, the website is facebook.com/nature333. No space there. facebook.com/nature333. If enough people go to that page and indicate interest by clicking the like button on the page, if I see the count go up, then maybe I'll go ahead and start actively posting photos and videos on there again. It's just something, a daily picture of a, you know, an attractive animal or a beautiful landscape, something like that. I just find beauty in nature and in the animal kingdom. Well, that's it for this video. I wish you all guys, the best. Tomorrow I will be posting that final episode of my series on the deep state, so keep your eyes out for that. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you guys have a great Sunday.